This is a novel addition to Alliance Party conferences, and looking at the crowd we have this morning, I think it's a great success, and hopefully this will now be a feature of Alliance conferences well into the future. And in saying that, can I also acknowledge the real ongoing support that comes from the Federation of Small Businesses, not just to the Alliance Party but to the political process in Northern Ireland, and how that organisation has very much facilitated political dialogue, particularly around economic and business issues, and that long may that continue. Wilfred has set that up in a number of very interesting ways, and I'm going to try to be slightly careful not to repeat some of the things I'm going to be saying later on, but to try to say some of the things that are particularly different, and also in doing so to respond to some of the issues that Wilfred has very neatly set up for us. I think it's useful maybe in the current context, and we know it is a challenging time both for businesses and for employees and those who are also unemployed in Northern Ireland at present. Think of what we're doing with respect to the economy in two different aspects. We have the rebalancing theme, which is very much about the long-term transformation of the Northern Ireland economy, how we actually change the fundamentals and address all of the structural problems. That means things like growing the private sector relative to the public sector, addressing economic inactivity, lowering the size of the subvention from the Treasury. And then on the other hand, we have a much more immediate challenge, which we call the rebuilding theme, because there is so many people out of work. There are people who are outside the labour market entirely, and we do really have to address that as a matter of considerable urgency. And it's not just an issue for them as individuals. I mean, this is a huge untapped resource that we're not properly utilising, so we all suffer as a consequence from that. Wilfred did refer to corporation tax, and certainly this party remains very strong in our support for that. But equally it's important to acknowledge that it's not a solution for every business, and on the other hand, it's not a solution for other businesses in isolation of other interventions. It only in some senses gets us to the first base, and there's other things we have to do to build on that. It's also important to recognise corporation tax isn't just something for attracting companies in from overseas. It should be viewed as being a tool that is for indigenous businesses, hopefully changing the focus from the subsidising of the cost base of businesses towards the incentivisation of profits, and helping to encourage businesses in particular to think a lot more about exporting. And we are seeing some very positive signs in that regard. Wilfred also mentioned about the importance of skills, and in some senses that's very much at the core of what we do in DEL. We are the Department of Skills, and a lot of people, if I maybe just ever so slightly delve into the elephant in the room, as Wilfred referred to it, a lot of people used to see DEL as being this department that was thrown together back in 1999 with a few bits and pieces from different departments, and it's a bit of an unseemly mess. In fact, DEL is actually a department that's united around a very clear narrative, and that was one of the very first things I was keen to impress upon the department when I took over last year. We are the Department of Skills. And what we do, whether it's in terms of higher education, further education, the employment service around employability skills, and also most critically how we engage with businesses, it's all united around investing in the workers of Northern Ireland, people, skills and jobs. So that's what holds us together. So looking to the future, and we certainly buy into the narrative that we have to reduce and rationalise government in Northern Ireland. Now whether that is DEL remaining as a department on a freestanding basis, or whether that is a single department of the economy, the most important thing within all of that is that we keep our eye on the ball around a clear and focus on the skills agenda. And if we fragment that, there's a real danger in Northern Ireland that we lose our cutting edge at the most critical time for the future of our economy. So let's make sure we don't change the department structures out of political expediency. Whatever we do has to be based upon sound policy analysis and for the best interests of the economy, not in the interest of politics. Just in terms of some of the specifics around skills at present, there's a lot of investment going into the skills agenda. I'm very clear skills is where it's at in Northern Ireland. It is our single biggest asset, and competition globally is getting more and more intense. And the days when we could compete based upon low cost of labour are long gone. We have to compete now on the quality of our people, and therefore the quality of the goods, facilities and services that we provide. The FSB has been very keen to promote the skills message with employers. And I appreciate that can be, particularly in difficult times, a hard message to get across, because often it's a training budget in companies that's the first to go whenever you're trying to balance the books. But I think the message has to be that companies that invest in skills during difficult times will be better placed to survive the challenging times, and moreover, whenever the recovery really takes off, will be best placed to take advantage of what is about to come. So certainly through FSB, I would encourage any company to contact our Skills Solutions Service in the Department of Employment and Learning to get a very clear understanding of the whole range of different programmes that may be available to companies. I'm also aware that for a lot of companies it can be very confusing out there, with Invest Northern Ireland sitting under DETI and Skills Solutions sitting under Dell in terms of who you go to for particular advice. So we are currently in discussions with Invest Northern Ireland over new memorandums of understanding, really just to improve that interface between the two organisations. And I want an end to any situation where someone would ring up Invest Northern Ireland and be told on the phone, that's not an issue for us, ring Dell. Or someone rings up my department and is told, that's not an issue for us, ring Invest Northern Ireland. We will make sure that no matter what way a company interacts with government, you get an answer, and the relevant person will contact you instead of you having the burden of having to contact a different department and try to navigate around what can be a very complex area. Wilfred also referred to employment law, and we have had some improvements in that over previous months. Not a lot of people appreciate that Northern Ireland is actually the only devolved region that actually has employment law devolved. Neither Scotland or Wales has control over employment issues. So there always is a constant battle with the Department of Business, Innovation and Skills in London, just to remind them that they have to take Northern Ireland into account and looking to the future, and particularly whenever they're dealing with Europe. And we have hopefully got that now well established. Members will be aware that there is a very wide-ranging debate going on in Great Britain at present over the future of employment law. Now, with devolution, we don't have to follow that, and indeed I have a commitment not to slavishly follow what happens in the rest of the UK. Whatever we do in Northern Ireland will be in the interests of the people and businesses of Northern Ireland. But nevertheless, there are issues out there that we do need to address. So I'm pleased to announce this morning that at the beginning of May, I'm intending to launch a 3-month consultation with stakeholders. This is an advanced consultation with a view to future legislation on employment law in Northern Ireland, trying to make things work better. I think good, harmonious relationships are in the best interest of both companies and employees. This isn't a situation where we have to bend to a right-wing agenda or a left-wing agenda. This is about trying to create harmony between the different interests and ensure that indeed they come together for the interest of business and the interests of the employees themselves. So for that process will produce a good result for all involved. And I can certainly give the assurance that from my perspective and the perspective of the party, we appreciate the regulatory burden that is often placed upon businesses. And hopefully through the approach that I took to the transposition of the Agency Workers Directive last year, where we did go for the 12-week derogation, that I am certainly sensitive to the needs of business in that regard. And through that we actually managed to avoid imposing a cost of something like £60 million upon the local business community. So I think that was of critical importance. The final thing I just want to focus, two final things I want to talk about. One, just briefly, which relates to skills, which is about tourism. This is a wonderful year for Northern Ireland, and next year as well. We have a whole host of important events. We have a lot of new facilities coming on stream. I think in some senses we will have 2 great years in tourism. The issue is going to be then what happens after that. And I'm clear, and the evidence internationally is clear, that we build a tourist market through people returning time after time after time. It involves word of mouth, people to their friends and families, and in terms of recommending Northern Ireland. To achieve that, we have to invest in the customer care. And for that reason, I'm very pleased that we are working so closely with the tourism and hospitality sector around bespoke training. This is under the brand of World Host, and I would certainly encourage any companies, particularly in that area, who want to engage in that training, to contact either my department or People First, which is the Sector Skills Council for tourism, to organise that. It's a very short training course, and you should see the badges World Host on people more and more as you go around hotels and different venues around Northern Ireland over the coming year. That is now the brand. You know that there is quality in terms of the service from personnel, and please, even at Le Mans, I've seen the badges as well. So if you look very closely, you'll see those over the course of today. The final thing I wanted to talk about, going back to the theme at the start about unemployment, particularly youth unemployment. It is a current problem in Northern Ireland, like many other parts of the world. We have now agreement from the executive over a new set of policies and programmes in this respect, based around work experience, and also potentially an employer subsidy to make it easier for employers to take that risk in terms of employing a young person, so that the sums at this stage don't quite add up. Maybe it's a bit too much for a risk. There is going to be financial help to assist in that regard. We're currently waiting to finalise discussions with the Department of Finance and Personnel and get the money out of SAMI before we can formally launch the programme, and to know how many placements we're able to support and fund. But hopefully that will come in the very near future. The engagement from business is going to be critical in this regard, because we need businesses to be offering placements, and I'm certainly very happy with the level of support and engagement that has come from the FSB in particular, alongside some of the other organisations, and I appreciate there's a real understanding in the business community of the importance of investing in the future of people, in particular the future of young people. And I certainly commend the FSB for that, and indeed, in closing, commend the FSB for this type of business breakfast and the engagement that we have today, and certainly feel free to speak to any of the Alliance MP, MLAs, councillors. There are many of them around the conference today on any particular business issues or concerns you have. Thank you very much.